What would look really cool in the background is a gradient, and on top of that gradient, some kind of pattern. So I'm going to create some more layers here. We have our food layer. Let me go ahead and rename that food. And we have our sketches, which are hidden. And we have this gray background that I create pretty much all my documents, so I don't have to have this white background when I'm working. So I didn't talk about that, but I typically do that for everything I draw in Illustrator because the white background kind of hurts my eyes. So what I'm going to do is create another layer, and we're going to call this gradient. And we're going to create another layer called pattern. Let's go ahead and do the gradient first. Okay, so I'm going to lock the pattern layer, I'll lock the food layer, and we're going to bring our gradient so that it's under the food layer. Let's go ahead and create a rectangle. And don't forget, we're doing a bleed, so we're going to want this to be outside the boundaries of our artboard, like so. Then we're going to go ahead and give it the default gradient by clicking on the gradient. And let's go ahead and try radial. Nah, that doesn't look too good to me. I think linear is going to be the way to go. Let's take our gradient tool and we're going to drag it straight down like this. So the gradient has a nice up and down kind of thing. Maybe I'm going to try to go this way to change the way it looks. Okay, until I get something nice. That might work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some stops. And I'm going to change the colors here. So I'm going to make this one a brownish color. And I'm going to grab this one and maybe a little bit of a more orangey color. We'll grab the next one, go back to brown, grab the next one, a little bit of a tan color, and the last one, a brown. And I'm going to experiment now. So I have my gradient, and what I'm going to do is move this out the way, and I'm going to simply move it around. Once again, the first idea is something I don't usually go with. I like to play around until I find something that looks cool and it's not going to be distracting. Right, so I think maybe the sideways one is going to work. I'm going to try it in different positions as well. So I'm really going to extend it out like so. And I think that might work. This color is pulling too hard in the orange area, so I'm going to go back and change that one. This one stop bothering me. So let's make it a little bit of a brown. Okay, a little bit more subtle now. I like that. So we're going to just dial that back a little bit. Okay, so we have our gradient. Now let's add another layer, or actually we did that already. I'm going to lock my gradient layer, and I'm going to drag the pattern layer under the food layer as well. And in the pattern layer, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab a rectangle, and let's make sure we have that unlocked. I'm going to draw out a rectangle that matches the size of the gradient. And I'm going to put a pattern in here. Now we could look at these swatches and we can see we have a pattern, but that's kind of wacky. I don't want to hypnotize people. I want them to buy the food. So I'm going to choose a different pattern than what's in this box. So let's go to the little drop down menu under the swatches, and I'll move the layers out of the way so we can focus. And let's go to the patterns category. Let's choose basic graphics, and let's try, let's see, textures. Now what we could do is click on one at a time to see how they interact with our gradient underneath it. And pick whichever one makes you happy. Alright, this is not about me, this is about you. So what I'm going to do is, hey, that's kind of interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and find something that's not going to be too overwhelming, but still give my artwork some texture. You see, the gradient is kind of cool, but it's also very cliche. Everybody and their mother uses a gradient. But let's go ahead and do something different, and that's why we're adding a texture that's going to live on top of that gradient to give it a little bit of a unique edge. And I think I'm going to go with, let's see here, I kind of like that one, that little crosshatch feeling. I'm going to close this now, and I'm going to make sure I have it selected, and I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to go to my transparency panel, and I'm going to try a couple of blend modes to see what they do for me. I don't want it to be overwhelming, and like I said before, really have to experiment. You really have to play around because your ideas only get better with time. The first idea is just the seed. Then you have to water that seed and you have to grow it until you have something cool. So I think the darken kind of look good, but I can also dial it back with the opacity slider. And I'm really liking that a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and this is what we're going to go with. Choose whatever pattern you like, and what we're going to do next is we're going to add our cafe text and the menu item text as well.